Amelia, thank you for having me. I'd also like to acknowledge the lands which I'm working from today, the land of the Darawal people, the Wadi Wadi Nation of the Darawal people here in Wollongong. Usually sunny, but we've just had a storm and hail, so hopefully we don't have another one for the next 10 minutes. So yeah, I'm from TSA Riley and I'm here to speak to you about a project that I was involved in a couple of years ago as a project director. I work in sustainability now, but on this particular project, I was a project director. And I want to share with you an experience that I hope highlights how observational data can contribute to the design process. And for me, this was the first time I've used observational data, and I've used it since, and I think it's really got great opportunities to contribute to improving sustainability as well. So I'd like to introduce you to Central Village. For Canberra locals, Central Village is probably better known as the Finlay Crisp Centre. It was originally constructed in the 1980s. It has 3 buildings surrounded by a central plaza with a couple of basement levels underneath. And it has a really significant address on Constitution Avenue. In early 2019, our client took an ambitious step of securing the precinct through an off-market purchase. So today I'm going to talk about how engaging with stakeholders to truly understand the customer experience ultimately created shared value for both the customers and end users, as well as the project owner. The ultimate project challenge was a commercial one. When the client purchased the property, some of the areas of the building were unleased, while the remaining leases were nearing expiration. And that was a total of 28,000 square metres of NLA, so it was quite significant. We explored various options for the site, including adaptive reuse, and we undertook market sounding to inform the business case. Ultimately, the client opted for commercial office refurbishment strategy. With the end goal established, we conducted further research and consultation to refine the details of our approach. With a budget of $42 million and a site area of nearly 9,000 square metres, our vision was to undertake a base building refurbishment that would reinvigorate the precinct's position in the commercial leasing market and attract long-term tenants who would contribute to its ongoing legacy. And of course, we had to stay within budget. Our market sounding revealed that activating the ground level plane was one of the key elements in basically the whole public realm area. You can see from this photo, it's quite a big plaza. This prompted a significant financial commitment with a substantial portion of the budget dedicated to this scope. But we kicked off the design through a place audit to get insights into the customer experience of this space. We really wanted to understand and we had a feeling about the legacy of how people felt entering the space, but we really wanted to confirm that and really understand it from the people on the ground, the users of the space. So what did the place audit tell us? The volume of visitors to the precinct on the survey day was high. There was 4,900 people on a workday coming through the plaza and entering the precinct. I think everybody was quite surprised about that volume, even with leases not a fully leased precinct. The audit confirmed that the activation on the ground floor plane was really low. People were only really hanging around the plaza for really short periods of time, so 5 to 10 minutes. And for the most part, they were standing around waiting for other people, occasionally taking a phone call, but really they weren't staying to enjoy the space. But it was through the intercept interviews that we've really found out how customers experience the space. Concrete, formal, dated, dull, harsh, cold, barren, oppressive, unwelcome. Needs a cafe or an after-work social space. Needs a vibe. Lack of street address. Confusing. Just a thoroughfare. And Siberia. But I have to say my best comment, or my favourite comment for last. Any life would be better than the nothingness currently here. So the customer had clearly spoken. We really understood and had confirmation that there was no enjoyment in that space. So how did this influence the design outcomes? What do we do with this information? One of the first key elements was understanding the patterns of movement around the ground floor plane. For me, as a project manager and not having a design background, this was actually a surprise for me. The place audit highlighted that customers often approached and left the precincts using a really uninspiring thoroughfare between two buildings on the corner of London Circuit and Nangari. I've indicated this here with the blue line in the image and the pattern of movement and the photo here. They weren't using the front of the building. They were coming from the back here through this little corridor. So reinforcing this pattern of movement to create a new prominent secondary building entry address was identified as a great opportunity. We decided to remove the underside of one of the buildings at the ground floor level, loosely indicated in orange here. It was opened up to enhance the connectivity between London Circuit and really invite people into the space. So this is another existing photo of this space. It was taken from the other side, from the internal plaza looking out towards the approach area. And the orange here shows the area that we ended up removing. And this is a photo of after. It shows the final transformation of this space. It really, truly creates this really open, warm and welcoming atmosphere. You can envisage the greenery on the right of the photo there. The intention is that it climbs up the trellis and then over, creating this really lush green entry corridor to a secondary entry to the building. So this is the same space looking from into the plaza from the outside of the precinct in. And again, the orange area showing the building, part of the building that we removed. And this is a photo, similar view of the refurbishment after it was completed. I really appreciate how the space offers a visual preview of the plaza beyond as you approach the building. We put a kiosk style coffee shop integrated into the undercroft area, so you can grab your coffee as you're coming in and with weather protection, and then head on into the buildings. It sort of created a social hub where people can gravitate to and sort of hang around for more than 5 minutes, hopefully, with their coffee before they go out to work. I think this is a really bold move. Although it resulted in a reduction of net lettable area, the overall contribution to the space's appeal and safety, I think it more than compensated for this loss in NLA. Question there from Tanya. The climatic conditions of this space, the plaza, the feedback we were getting from the plaza is that there is a bit of wind in the plaza. It's shaded in winter and it was really warm and hot in summer. So there can be some pretty difficult conditions to deal with as well. I'll show you, we did try and address some of that in the design. So I'll bring you back in focus to the sub-area of the primary plaza area. So the feedback that we got was concrete, formal, dated, dull, harsh, cold, barren, oppressive and unwelcome. It needs grassed, soft edges, materials, private spaces, timber, artwork, warmth, shade, greenery and activation. So this is an image of the before refurbishment and an image of after refurbishment. So the harsh contrasting coloured concrete was toned down. Some of the feedback that we got from the place audit was that it was quite reflective, that it was a bit hard to walk through the space because of all of the bright concrete. So warm colours were introduced and textures and created more inviting atmosphere. For cost efficiency, the existing garden beds were reused. However, these were softened with really mindfully designed seating, adding movement and interest and warmth into the space. It's a lot more inviting to sit on that beautiful timber than it was the sort of harsh, cold stone that was there before. The redesign also preserved the existing mature trees wherever possible. They were quite beautiful and we retained everyone that we could. The formal hedging was removed and new plantings were introduced to bring additional colour and vibrancy. That's another photo of after. It was clear from the place audit that customers wanted somewhere to spend time in the space. Opportunities for private spaces were plaza. In this photo here, you can see that we filled in between two existing garden beds. We created a deck and a grassed area so that it broke up the formal layout of the existing garden beds. Were very rectangular. I think it provides a really inviting space to sit, lounge, socialise, and the grass was a lot softer. Another element that I like was access to the garden beds was invited through the introduction of steps and pavers. So rather than the garden beds being sort of a formal thing that you sat around on the edge of the cold stone, the landscape architect actually added steps on the outside of the old garden beds and pavers through the garden beds. Now you can see here a chair within the garden space. So you can actually it invited people to go and enter the space, particularly if it was hot, to get away from the concrete. You wanted to go and have some private space so you could enter the garden beds. I really liked it. These seamlessly integrated with the garden beds, dispelling their previous formality. Custom designed street furniture and shelters were installed. So this was really important for the trying to make it a bit more comfortable, particularly in summer, with giving that feedback that it was really hot in summer. So we installed the comfortable seating and shaded areas for visitors, as you can see in these photos. Specialist lighting was also installed into the seating, and it creates this, you can see the slatted seating there, and as you walk past the seating, it was designed so that it would create movement and shade and light. As you walked past it at night, it'd be lit from behind, and it just create this sense of sort of dynamic sense as you walk past it. A bit more activation. The furniture was made from materials like spotted gum, timber and powder coated steel, and it blends seamlessly into the surroundings. This thoughtful design not only provides practical benefits, but adds to the overall aesthetic and appeal and amenity of the space. And finally, we looked at the lacking street address and wayfinding. So here's a photo here to remind you of the space before, and you can see on Constitution Avenue the beautiful grey paving and the refurbishment that the government had recently invested heavily into modernising this space. Contrast to the plaza, the beautiful terracotta of the plaza. So the new street frontage offered a more welcoming and vibrant address, more reflective of what should be on Constitution Avenue. The materials feel warm, contemporary architectural elements and integrated landscaping significantly enhance the building's presence. There was a new structure on the street facing side of the plaza to create an opportunity for food and beverage services and after hours activation of the space, of which there's not a lot in the area, or there wasn't at the time. Overall, a softer, more inviting and prominent entrance was established. And the building entrances were also modernised to create a more contemporary appearance and improved accessibility. The building entrances were very old and dated. The doors weren't working very well. It wasn't great for access. So the new refurbished access, the building entries were now much easier to identify, much easier to use. And thanks to clear signage and distinct architectural features, the entrance visibility and presence within the plaza was much better, much easier to navigate. And to wrap up, Central Village was revitalised, breathing new life into the area. The place order informed the design, creating significant value for both customers and the client. The addition of the new ground floor retail and hospitality tenancies, along with public artwork and a refurbished plaza, activated the public realm. In pedestrian connections, supported by clear wayfinding, have enhanced the area's accessibility and appeal. The street frontage and secondary entrance offer a welcome and attractive entrance, both drawing visitors into the heart of the space. Integrating landscape and architectural solutions have transformed what was once Siberia into a vibrant public space. And the last time I checked on the project, over 3/4 of the NLA had been leased, which was the ultimate goal. So that's the project team there, who are all amazing. All right, I'll go back to the photo if you want. There's a couple of questions.
Yeah, you've got a question there about accessible access, public space.
Access was pretty tricky. It was pretty good on Nangari and London Circuit, but on Constitution Avenue, it was really challenging. I know the landscape architects had it was really challenging to create those front steps. I don't have a great photo. Oh, yeah, the front steps here.
Yeah.
There,
and there's actually a lift access as well, just off to the left of that, if you need to come in on that area. But otherwise, you can go around the back, as I recall, to get level access into the precinct.
Yeah, that's right. We installed a lift to the left here, an external lift.
And there's another question here from NCA about, have you done post observations?
We didn't. I wish unfortunately,
we will.
I would really love to, because it's anecdotal and, my view and of course the view of people that, talk to, but I'd love to do a post-occupancy study of the changes that were made, because the investment was significant. And I mean, you can see it when you see people using the space, and it's a couple of years now, so it'd be great to go back and have a look. But no, we haven't. I'd love to.
And I think, Tim, that probably answers your question too. But yeah, I think there is the plan, Lyndell, if we can get it together to do one. And you have a question here from Shinya who's saying, how did you consider an existing positive sense of place when doing the renovation?
I think it was, I'm not sure if this is the right answer to your question, but a positive sense of place. I think it's got to be about people wanting to spend time in the space. Accessibility within the plaza was also really important to make sure that the garden beds, it was really sort of, the space was just cold. It was just cold and really underutilized. So we really wanted to create a space where anybody could go and access it. We had to put a couple of ramps and the like in. So we went over and above accessibility requirements in the landscape design as well to make sure that we could be as inclusive as possible, particularly up on the deck and grassed areas, to make sure that we could have that sense of, anybody could come down and use the space, even with the challenge of the front street facing space.
And there was a lot of positives around the existing trees, which is why such a big effort was to retain them. A lot of positives around some of the spots that actually got sun in winter. So that's where actually the cafe seating is located. So there were a lot of positives that came through that drove the design outcomes as well, I think. Thank you very much, Linda. I'm going to call it there.